Good morning.
Good morning, Rich. How are you?
How you doing, Chris? Thanks for joining me. This is Chris Wright with Hill Robinson, and I'm Rich Merhige, and this is another episode of Tech in Check, and we're here with Chris. You want to tell us a little about yourself and how you got into this crazy business and who you're with? And
thank you for having me. Appreciate it. I've watched a few of your episodes. Love them.
Good.
So, growing up in Northern California, I started off sailing in the late 80s, and that evolved into wanting to do more on the water. California is very limited in what you can do, as far as because of the local areas. There's nowhere really to go except for a day sail.
It's deep water sailing.
So that evolved into me pursuing a career in the yachting industry full time, which led me straight to Ancona, Italy, and started off as a deckhand on a 50-meter powerboat. And that was
in Ancona, Italy, right out of California, right over to the.
It was a big cultural change from a kid from Silicon Valley to,
how was the pizza?
To Italy. Yes. The pizza and the learning the language real quick, but it was good.
Yeah,
loved it. And so it's been 30 plus years since.
That's a long time. And
I got out of the industry for a little while. I was a full-time firefighter and just got sucked right back in.
Yeah, it's in your blood.
Yeah.
The sea's in your blood, right?
Yeah. So
that's really interesting.
Love it. Love the technical aspect's always been, when we were in the shipyard in Ancona, I actually didn't want to leave, and that's what really drew me to it. Was, I found much.
Ancona is a pretty big yachting center, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a pretty. Where is that in Italy?
We were on the Adriatic side.
On the Adriatic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but it was good.
Yeah, you were right there in the. And you were on a very large boat for back in those days.
At the time.
I remember when I first got into yachting. A 100-footer was a big boat.
Yes. Yeah.
And here you are in a 50-meter.
Yeah. And now those are those are tenders.
What a way to start, huh?
Yeah. So it's good.
Yeah, you went right into the big boys.
But the technical and then the people and the experiences you meet, I've loved it.
Yeah, you've missed it.
And as you know, every day is a new challenge.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, a boat on the sea, it's always something, right?
Yeah.
Chris, tell me a little bit more about Hill Robinson.
So Hill Robinson was founded by Nick Hill and Neil Robinson in 2000. They opened their first office in Antibes in 2001.
Okay.
And has just evolved ever since, and really rapidly in the last few years. And
it's impressive.
Upwards of 200 employees now.
Okay.
Taking over from yacht management to brokerage, aviation division, hospitality, concierge services, training.
So you really offer a complete solution.
Really trying to encompass take everything for the owner, make sure that the owners and the clients are represented across the board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they don't have to worry about anything.
Right. Just put the pleasure in the pleasure yachting.
Yes. Yep. And take the headache, the worry, take everything off their plate and let them enjoy what they earned and
also I guess it helps to let the captain and crew focus on their jobs.
And
not worry about the management of the vessel.
Yes, exactly.
So that's and it sounds like in 2000 they must have been one of the first big yacht management companies.
By far.
Yeah, because I remember back in my days in this industry, and yacht management was still kind of like
a new concept.
It wasn't really, it really hadn't taken root.
Yeah, and it was being advocates for the owner, and again, trying to make sure that, we're there to support everybody.
Right.
And make sure that the owners are being taken care of the way they should be.
Well, and another fact, from as an engineering side, the complexity of the vessels and the size of the vessels has become exponential.
Exponential, and then you bring in regulation. And every year things are changing constantly.
That's become huge
and
too.
So having all of our in-house staff to support the vessels again, and making sure that we're updated on compliance at all times, and so that it's always a seamless transfer.
Right. Yeah, there's been a lot more regulatory bodies, and you got class, you have flag state, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. There's a lot of crew training.
Yeah. Constantly.
Yeah, this
certifications
nonstop.
and keeping up on it, and it's amazing seeing how many different departments within our organization that everybody is, you know, there's so many different little things. Again, going back to 25 years ago, you didn't have as much regulatory oversight as you do now.
No, it's
a much more professional industry, as we all know. Everybody's certified, constant training, upgrading your tickets.
right.
You know,
right.
it's a career. For a lot of people, it always was, but even more so now, it's a lifestyle and a career.
Yeah, and you can't, and well, they have rotations. You have to, you know, just getting crew in and off the boat.
Yeah.
Transfers, all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
getting and the owners and getting them to the vessel.
Yes. And COVID made all that fun.
And fueling, COVID
was a big, you know, globally for all of us, but you know, we tried not to stop, and we didn't. You know, we kept moving.
Yeah, so you have to.
Yeah.
All right, so you know, COVID, you managed to get through that, and and how is everything kind of gotten back to normal now? And
it's rapidly getting better day by day. And as far as, you know, from a technical aspect, the supply chain issues, which have affected us globally, it doesn't matter whether you're a farmer or in yachting or automaker, we're finally getting back to where, you know, things are, you know, I was having 8, 9, 10 month lead times on things that were usually 3 to 4 weeks. So from that aspect, from keeping the boats operational, we're getting back to normal.
Okay.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
As we all know, travel restrictions are opened up. So getting crew in and out, you know, because obviously, you know, a lot of our boats are 20 plus crew members, and we're different nationalities, so different rules and regulations, you know, where you're flying in, quarantine. So thankfully, hopefully we're over that.
There's a lot of moving parts, and I can understand, you know, why somebody would need support of a yacht management company. I mean, when you think about crew and engineering and navigation and regulatory bodies and all that, you know, you can understand why an owner would benefit from some crew management.
Exactly.
So you want to talk a little bit about the technical side of it, and the yard, like planning, you know, major maintenance periods for these yachts.
So in my capacity with being the technical manager in the U.S. office, I'll look after, you know, when we're due for our next annual survey, when we're due our next internal audit, and then start pre-planning these shipyard periods in conjunction with what the classification society, depending on who it is,
What the requirements
are.
Yeah.
And I try and get ahead. I look at least at minimum 8 months out, if not a year out.
Yeah.
And I'll start vetting my vendors, knowing what we need to do, and then working backwards from there. And then as soon as I have my budget approved, I'll go ahead and start booking my vendors, usually a good year out, so that I know when we do come to the shipyard period that I've already got everybody in place. And there is no delay. Well, we have another job. We have this and that. You know, it's already, the calendar's already been blocked.
Getting spares. I mean, I know from our experience, like certain components, we're getting some, you know, getting material, particularly out of Northern Europe and Germany, for example. I mean, there's, you know, we're looking at 4, 5, 6 months of lead time on some of this stuff.
And that goes back to, again, the pre-planning being the most important part of the whole equation for the shipyard period.
Yeah.
Because as soon as that boat is down and out of service, the client is losing his asset, and all it is money. Money and time are going out the window. And if everything is not pre-planned and pre-bought, you're looking at a double, you know, you could double your shipyard period. And it's like, well, who didn't do the planning correctly?
Yeah, and unfortunately, we see that where a vessel will show up in the yard and not appropriately planned. And, you know, all of a sudden the goalposts are moving and everybody's getting upset. that's not a good thing.
No,
But,
and and it's seasonal, as we all know. So if you're not prepared to be finishing your project here in the States, late fall, they're going to miss their Caribbean season, and vice versa. If you miss your winter yard period, they're going to miss their mid season.
Yeah,
and so that's to the detriment of all of us in the industry. Is if they can't use their boat the way they want to use it.
Right.
Why have it?
Why have a boat? Yeah.
If it's going to sit in the shipyard for a year because it wasn't planned out properly. So
yeah, I mean, there's some, I know with COVID, a lot of the owners are using the boat more than ever.
Yes.
And there's some beautiful places to go in the world that you can really only truly access by the sea, and by seeing it from the water, you get a completely different perspective.
Yes. Yeah.
So on the technical side, so you're planning out these yard periods and maintenance, not just yards, right? Sometimes you do a wet dock or you'll do a dry docking, right?
Yeah.
You have to worry about the main engines, the steering. Do you have how do you break it down by vessel? Do you have some kind of database for maintenance management?
So we have a fleet plan maintenance system.
Okay.
Checklist.
Right.
That all of Hill Robinson boats have.
Right.
Adhere to, and that's a living document between the vessel and Hill Robinson that we refer to, and then especially from the Hill Robinson side, we refer to plan our refit period, because there are things on the boat that aside from the statutory things that's a given, that's in black and white.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot on there that the chief, the purser, the bosun, the chief officer, the captain are filling in on just normal wear and tear items.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. And what I was involved in the commercial world in vessel management, my own background, and we had maintenance management system, and you have maintenance based on calendar hours, or you have maintenance based on running hours. Yeah. So keeping track of all that gets to be complex in itself. Yeah. So I was interested in how you do that, and then you're planning out these dry docks. You probably have like you said, you have like a checklist of everything you need to go through. Yeah. Because I don't know if you can elaborate a little bit more on that.
Well, we have a very comprehensive spreadsheet that we work off of.
That you built.
And some of the guys, everyone's a little, you tailor it to your needs, obviously.
Every vessel's
for
different.
your product, and every vessel's different. And with the vessels that we're managing here, it's concurrent, so I'm constantly updating that spreadsheet for that particular vessel.
Sure.
And so when I do come into a yard period, I've already thankfully got a lot of my data's already there. Yeah. And as you know, working off of historical data, my budgeting and my durations, I pretty much know how long everything's going to take, so I can pretty quickly get something across to somebody and say, okay, look, this is the block of time we're going to need, and this is the expenditure we're looking at. Okay. Let's get going on this now, so I can order all my spares, secure my vendors, and in 8-9 months we'll go ahead and execute. Okay. And we'll be ready.
And that's for planned dry docking, planned maintenance, and then of course you have the unplanned stuff,
maintenance, and
which throws a monkey wrench in things.
And that's where relationships.
And you really got to be quick on your feet for that.
Yep. And that's where the relationships come into play, and working with AME and yourself.
I know we were able to work together and kind of get through some situations.
And we had a Hill Robinson client that you guys reacted quickly to, and we had a positive result and got the client underway, and none of it was planned. Sure wasn't planned by the boat.
No.
And we were able to get the boat out of the water, assess, have a positive result, and the boat got back over to Europe like they planned on.
Yeah, right.
So it's
because the sea is the sea.
Yeah.
And you never know. Sometimes you deal with things that you weren't kind of pop up out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
So and you have to adjust and compensate for that.
Yeah, and you have to be able to react and be positive, and not always looking forward. Like, okay, how are we going to resolve this? How are we going to fix it? Not why, you want to understand obviously how you got there, so you don't repeat that.
Right.
But more so, I look at it, how do we resolve this and move forward in the best, safe, quickest possible manner.
Yeah, and there's a lot of moving parts to that that I don't see how it could be possible to manage that from
one person. No.
Especially from the vessel itself.
Yeah.
Just the communication alone.
Yes.
To have somebody shore-based support to get, to organize and put all this together. I mean, I don't see how anybody else, how people could do it otherwise.
No,
and you have, if you have insurance involved, you have class involved, you have, you really need support for stuff like that.
And from the vessel side too, remember, the captain is managing that vessel, that asset for the owner, as well as the crew.
Right.
And so that's a full-time day-to-day job anyways.
Yeah.
And then you lump in something where you're going to have 15 or 20 vendors on a project coming out of 3 different time zones and dealing with immigration, customs, importation, VAT.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff's out of Europe.
There's a lot of little things that people don't always see, and that's the way it should be.
Right.
That's what management does.
I mean, and then, booking in a dry dock if you need that. Yeah. That can be, just in itself, can be challenging. Yeah. Right?
And again, securing, those are things that I look at that I'll go ahead and secure 8 months to a year ahead of time and book those dates and get that deposit in, just like when you're planning your vacation to go somewhere and you book your hotel room.
Yeah, you really got to think ahead.
The week before, you're not gonna get the room you want.
Yeah, and you got to get all those, get all those bids in. You got to, source all the spares. Yeah. Set up the vendors. Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts. Yeah. There was a couple more things that you were gonna touch upon here that have to go back to relationships and yard period.
We have many different facets within the company, and new construction management we haven't spoken about. And we'll go ahead and, depending on the vessel that is, the idea has been brought, engaging the naval architect, developing the plan, working between the owner's team and or the owner.
So you'll inject yourself in these things.
And finding the right naval architect, the right interior designer, and then the right shipyard to build the vessel where you're going to be a high latitude vessel. So you're going to be looking at a completely different hull setup, makeup, than you would a mid-latitude vessel. So vetting those different shipyards, knowing those correct people, taking it to the next step, the contract negotiations, making sure that the owner's best interests are being represented, and then the project planning, the oversight, hiring the crew, sea trials, commissioning,
quality
and taking it full circle, and then from there into full yacht management, where we're doing the accounting in our normal day-to-day operations, compliance, regulatory stuff.
To take the yacht right from build right through to daily operations.
From that idea stage, that this is something I want to do and this is somewhere I want to go, which that's a big part of it, I think, is knowing, not limiting yourself. If again, getting back into the high latitude stuff versus the mid latitude, well, if you think you're going to want to go to Antarctica or up to Greenland and Iceland and go do the Northwest Passage.
And that's a popular thing
and a lot of people are trying to do that Northwest Passage, as we always know. And that's one of those bucket list things that, I know one former client of mine that he's tried 7-8 years in a row.
Oh, no kidding.
And he hasn't been able to do it yet. So,
well, knowing when to turn around is pretty important.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's another aspect too. Is just,
and then
learning to say no.
Exactly.
To tell people you can't do something is not easy.
No.
As you know.
Yes.
So, I mean, you had some things about quality control, making sure that
going through
the vendor relationships, and we were talking about getting face to face with these people.
And so I just recently had a situation where I've got a boat in dry dock right now, and they were talking about delivering some parts that I needed that were promised for December, actually next week. And all of a sudden it moved to mid-January. And it turned out what I was seeing between the lines was a communication breakdown between me and the vendor in Germany, verbally and in emails, and which resulted in me getting on a plane, going straight to the vendor, sitting down with everybody to understand what it is and everything.
Express that there is some urgency.
Face to face, and it cleared up. It's so hard in the written word sometimes to get your point across, and so a simple leave Miami on Monday and come home on Friday, next week all the parts I need will be here in Savannah. So
it's funny how that goes, huh?
Yeah, and the client will get the vessel back 2 months early, or as planned, but there was going to be a 2-month delay.
Yeah, 2 months is
a huge amount of time.
That's a huge cost.
So there's that. I truly believe in the if not by phone, this face-to-face communication.
Yeah, really.
It takes out so many road bumps.
Yeah, making sure people understand.
Yeah.
And like you said, nothing like the face-to-face and building that relationship with the vendor.
And
so they
know
you
talking
and maybe they'll go that extra mile for you, because they understand your needs better. Yeah, absolutely. So industry news, there's regulations or requirements that have impacted anything in particular, and you were saying,
well, that's always a moving, I don't want to say a moving target, but there's always with regulation and compliance that's changing constantly. And things are improving. Sometimes they seem like they're detrimental, but let's hope they're always improving. But we have a full compliance department that is strictly in charge of all regulation, all flag, audits, and compliance. And there's constantly, if not monthly, could be more, but there's a fleet notice that'll go out to all of our boats. And it'll list what's coming up for flag, class, what you need to do, what's changing, MARPOL, what they need to be looking out for. And it's a general fleet notice, and then the captains will take it and say, okay, well, this applies to my flag and my boat.
That brings up a good point. By operating a fleet, and I assume you guys have fair amount of large vessels under management, I would imagine you also get there's some benefit to that, because you can, you have more power with vendors, and you're more.
Yes and no. It's from the technical side and the vendor side of it. I guess I'll work with a painting contractor or a driveline. I'll manage 4 to 7 drivelines in a year. Your average captain, 1 every 10.
Yeah, exactly.
Paint jobs. I'll do a 2-3 70-meter paint jobs in a year, and there's some captains that have done one paint job in their entire career. Yeah. So there's that repetitiveness, knowing what to look out for, what pitfalls, and then building that relationship too. Yeah. And again, the more you do anything, what they say, it's 10,000 hours till you become an expert. Yeah. They
always say that first year you learn 90%, and that last 10% takes like 10 years.
Yeah, so I've got 9,900 hours to go.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot to be said for that, you know. Yeah. By the time I got enough experience, I'll be ready to retire. Yeah. So, no, I hear you. I think that, managing, like you said, multiple projects, you know what to look for, you know what the pitfalls are, you work with these vendors day in, day out, and there's a lot of efficiencies to be gained by that. Huge. A lot of knowledge to be gained like that. And
even more so...
And the communication's better.
Communication. And then I think even more so is knowing what to stay away from can save you a lot of lot of pain.
Sure.
And a lot of pain, a lot of money, and time. You know, time's the most critical thing. That you know, money, there's a way to recover from sometimes. You can't get time back.
No.
We all know.
Once that clock's ticked, it's ticked.
And every day that the boat's out of commission is just not what we want to have.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. So, which brings us to. You know, Hill Robinson and AME, and we're all about reliability and condition monitoring and precision alignment and things like that you know, help reduce downtime.
Yeah.
And you know, we worked on a couple projects together, and I know, you know, you've been a good supporter of us, and I appreciate that. And you know, we've done some I remember when I first started in this industry, nobody even heard of vibration analysis. Nobody really even knew what it was. And I've worked with you, and you've really, you see the benefit.
Huge.
You know?
No, it's a huge, that pre-vibration, there's, if you take anything that's rotating apart and you haven't done that pre-vibration survey, when you get out of the shipyard, nobody can point a finger and say, well, why do I have this going on?
Exactly. Yeah, you get that.
If you don't have that data recorded and understanding why those engine mounts on the port forward engine are shot.
Why are they shot, or why, you know, why is there a misalignment, or why are these, you know, what's going on with the coupling? Is there a misfire? You know, what do we need to address? What do we need to catch here?
Because as you know, passenger comfort's everything. And at least
very sensitive.
Yeah, and at least when you get out of the shipyard, you want to be able to say, okay, we did our due diligence, we did everything correctly, by the book the way we should, and not just making a guess on it. And so that when the client or the principal comes on board the boat, hopefully everything is.
Plus I think it's, you know, it's a good overall, the vibration, you know, selling my own self a little here, is a good overall mechanical condition of the vessel.
Yes.
So, you know, if there's something not right, you know, we'll pick it up.
Yeah.
You know, it's so.
And you're just adding longevity to the rotating machinery when everything's in balance.
Now, are you doing other types of, you know, there's oil analysis. I think you guys do oil analysis,
we do that on a regular basis.
I don't know if you're into the infrared thermography, into the switchboards and things like that.
We're doing that now.
Yeah, well, it's just another, you know, another really helpful technology. And of course, you know, we worked with you in several dry dockings where we're using precision alignment, and we're using lasers to align these shafts. And I mean, these yachts are like small ships, and it takes a little bit more to understand those kind of. That's not like the drive line of a, you know, 100-footer. It's complex.
There's a lot in there, and as you know, over the course of a yacht's life, different chief engineers, different shipyards, globally, you'll have 4 different things going on. I mean, the basics are there. You know, your prop nut, your prop, your shaft, your couplings, your bearings,
hydraulic couplings.
But people start interjecting their own personal things into some things, and so working through all of that works very well with AME.
Yeah, thank you.
And getting through those.
Yeah, and we were talking even about singing propellers.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's just something that, you know, that can easily turn into a giant headache if, you know, it's a small little detail.
Small little detail that
it's all in the devil's in the details, right?
Yeah, and if the shipyard hadn't prepared the propeller properly for some kind of a coating, anti-fouling coating, and misprepared it, you will get singing off the tip of the prop. Then what do? Haul the boat again?
Exactly.
Who's paying for that?
Right.
And then even so, even though you get through the financial part of it, well, what about the time lost? Because obviously, especially when you're getting down to those launch days, somebody knows that they're going to be using that boat real soon. Yeah. And the last thing you want to do is come back out of the water.
And some of these propulsion systems with these oil lubricated drive lines and things like that.
Yeah.
You got to worry about oil pollution.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't just turn a blind eye to that stuff. And those shaft seals are critical, and how they're installed is critical, and how the alignment's done is. All those little details make a difference. Well, anyway, I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
You know, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think we're wrapping it up here.
Okay.
And is there anything you'd like to add before we say goodbye?
No, it's great. I appreciate being asked.
Chris, it was a pleasure. Thank you, and really enjoy working with you guys at Hill Robinson. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.